I want to have Brandon to come forward. This is a son-in-law.
I'd just like to thank Steve, first of all, for going after Celeste, because there's no way I could have followed that. That was amazing. And just echo what he said. Wow, what a crowd. You look out here and you see the people overflowing and you realize just how lucky of a man Jimmy was. I know he'd be itching to get this ceremony over with quickly, too, so we could all go to the party. So I promise I won't take up too much of your time. I'll try to be brief. My name is Brendan Coleman, and I am married to Jim's greatest achievement, his daughter Melissa, over here. And so it's an honor to be able to be invited to speak to everybody. And I think that Camille asked me to talk to the group because she knows that I too suffer from the affliction that plagued Jim his whole life. And I'm not talking about pancreatic cancer, of course. I'm talking about being a lifelong Redskins fan. It is some of you can relate. It is a chronic, progressive, often painful condition that you can only truly identify with if you're part of our group. Now, I have always considered myself a pretty serious Redskins fan. I've got a black SUV out in the parking lot. The license plate says TDRG3. I brought my son home from the hospital in a Sean Taylor jersey. I sing him Hail to the Redskins at night to get him to go to sleep. And you know, Jim was a serious fan too. I have to admit, he had the first RG3 jersey I ever saw. I think Chris gave it to him, though. He had the stickers and the banners. But, to be honest, I didn't think he was quite at my level. But that all changed last Friday when I walked into his house. And thankfully, he had just passed away. And I walked into the house, and there he was, lying peacefully, resting for the first time in such a long time, wrapped in the most comfortable-looking Redskins blanket you've ever seen in your life. And I remember thinking, wow, that is amazing. That is amazing. And I knew that I just wasn't quite on his level. And then, I'm not sure how many of you people are aware, he has to one-up me again. Here he is in the center here in this beautiful custom-made burgundy and gold urn with a stainless steel Redskins logo on it. I mean, that is impressive, right? Nothing says super fan like resting for eternity in your team's colors. I'm so happy that Jim was here to see this run last year with RG3 and put us back on top of the NFC East. And I know it sounds frivolous to some, but it was a big deal to us lifelong Redskins fans, and I'm glad he got to see it. Jim loved sports. Not just the Redskins, he loved the Nationals, and it was great for him to be able to see them come to D.C. and make it to the playoffs, and the Caps rise to prominence, and then luckily he hasn't been here for too much of the fall, and hopefully that won't go on. But all of those sports paled in comparison to how much he loved to watch his children and grandchildren play sports. For him, it was such a gift to have such athletic, gifted children. Starting with Jody, who was an amazing softball athlete. She had great prowess on the field. And Doug, who was a football and basketball star. And who could ask for anything more than to have a superstar soccer player like his daughter Melissa, who was a high school All-American and Marymount's all-time career goal scorer? I know she's going to give me grief for saying that, but it was something that gave Jim a lot of pride, and he loved it. And no one more so than with Chris, who excelled at 3 sports, right? Wrestling, baseball, hockey. Oh, and golf now, too, right? Now golf as well. I mean, I can honestly say I never saw Jim happier than when he was talking about one of Chris's games or one of his victories. It gave him such joy and happiness. And it was a happiness that was renewed when he got to go see his granddaughter Ashley play soccer. Or even when he saw my son, his grandson Cooper, master the t-ball kit and basketball hoop he gave him before he was 2 years old. It was, I just know he loved you all so much, and that brought him so much joy in his life. Jim was really lucky in life. And it's not just because I married into his family. It goes back a long way. Jim went to Vietnam and came back. That's pretty lucky in and of itself. His service is something that he was really proud of. He won the lottery, and I'm not talking about when Camille agreed to marry him. I mean, he literally won the lottery, a big pile of money, and that's pretty lucky, right? I think he may have used it to buy into what I consider, from an outsider's point of view, the greatest, most tight-knit, fun neighborhood in America. And who would be lucky enough to buy a house on that street? And he was so lucky to have you all as his friends. He talked about you guys all the time, and you meant the world to him. Now, I know many of you are thinking, like, how can somebody who just died so young of pancreatic cancer be considered lucky? But if you consider what Stephen was just saying, you know, the survival rate for people diagnosed with pancreatic cancer is only 6%. And when you get diagnosed in stage 4, like Jim did, it falls to 1%. And that's just to live 5 years. The average life expectancy is 6 months, and Jim made it for almost 3 years. That's pretty lucky. You know, he got to do something even the Beatles never got to do. He got to go on a goodbye tour. And it was amazing. He had parties. He remodeled his house. He got Camille a new car. He went on trips. He got to do everything that he wanted to do over that time. You know, he got during that time to see my wife give birth to our son, and to see Cooper learn to crawl and walk and really love his pop-pop. And he used to come over to our house and hang out with he would just show up in his Corvette with a bag of hamburger subs from Mario's, which were so gross, but he loved them, I must say. And he loved Cooper so much, and I must say, I know the feeling was mutual. Now, I won't lie, the last few months were pretty rough. Watching someone die from pancreatic cancer is the most dehumanizing thing I've ever seen. But Jim was really lucky in that too. He had what I like to call the dream team with him all the time. Every time I went to the hospital, his sister Sharon was there by his side, comforting him and taking care of him. Chris was his rock. He put his life on hold to make sure he didn't miss any of his dads. I think Jim was at peace because he knew Chris would always be there to take care of Camille. Jody, I have come to believe you were born to take care of people, flew in from Nevada to take care of her dad, and it was amazing to see her in action in the last few weeks. Mary Ann, you want to talk about lucky? Who actually has a mother-in-law that is a real nurse that can come in from Florida and take care of you and keep all the hospice people in line and make sure you're getting what you deserve? It was unbelievable. And of course, it's no mistake I'm leaving somebody for last, and that's Camille. Camille, I told you last Friday night that watching what Jim had to go through was so brutal, but seeing you by his side the whole time, it really restored my faith in humanity. I mean, to have a wife like you by your side through that whole process made me realize Jim truly was the luckiest man in the world. The compassion, grace, comfort, tenderness with which you took care of Jim was really awe-inspiring. And I'm not kidding. I told Melissa when we came home, I said, I hope you were taking notes, because that is how I want somebody to take care of me. And I told her I don't think she has it in her, but we'll see. Jim was really lucky to have you all on the dream team. Together, you made sure he left this world with no regrets. He had no resentments. There's nobody in Jim's life who's ever going to wonder how he felt about them, because he had the time to tell you. It was an unbelievable experience, and we all know how much he loved us because he had the time to tell us too. You know, one thing Jim said over and over again, particularly towards the end, is don't feel sad for me. I've had a great life. I was a lucky man. With Camille by his side, he certainly did have a great life. With such beautiful children and grandchildren, he had a great life. And with so many friends here to honor and respect him and later celebrate him, I think we should all be so lucky to have such a great life.